The banking system is currently a bit shaky, and so is the customer's confidence in the system. So if customers who are expected to pay this charge in the future, why should they trust a system that's not proving to be efficient for them?
One thing I just want to make it clear, the amount of GST, whatever it is going to be collected, if it is implemented, that will go to the government.
Right.
Because there are two departments of Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue, Department of Banking.
Right.
Banks are not going to hold any amount of that.
That's
and
true.
They are not going to benefit out of that.
But the amount is owed by the banks, not by the customers at this point.
No.
If it's 15,000 crore, the maximum of 6,500 crore tax liability currently rests with HDFC Bank. Do you believe it's fair to pass that on to customers?
No, definitely. If there is a tax liability, that will be passed on to the customer. As on date, the banks has not yet decided what they will do in the future.
Right.
Probably some banks may be the position to bear that burden of the tax from their own.
Well, three banks, HDFC, State Bank and ICICI have already said that they will pass it on to the customers.
This is confirmed that every tax liability will be passed to the customers. And in fact...
So you believe it's okay if the banks are passing this on, and if a customer has to pay for using the ATM, you believe that's okay?
No, I am just opposing that.
Okay.
That's why I said the public representative or even the forums of the consumers and customers, in the interest of the customers, these services should not be at a toll tax, GST.
Right.
In fact, this should be exempt from the GST. I would say.
So you believe that charge, the liability should not even exist in the first place?
Yeah.
It should not exist in the first place. But we are in a situation where it does exist.
No, in fact,
so what option or solution do the banks have?
No, how it was derived. It was derived from the tax department on the basis of that.
Right.
On the basis of the minimum balance, some limit, those services are offered to the customers.
Right.
They took a lead out of that.
Yeah.
Say, if I am a bank, I am providing all services, no minimum balance, say like zero balance.
Right.
But still I am giving you the free checkbook, free ATM, free this thing. So how you will derive that?
Well, so far below the minimum balance, you've had to pay a charge.
Exactly.
But this particular proposal is for those who might even be maintaining the minimum balance. If you have minimum balance, regardless of the type of your bank account, you could still have to pay a charge.
No, that's why they have calculated a value of that. This 5,000 rupees is the minimum balance. Above that, if you maintain 5,000, all the services will be free. Below 5,000 rupees, even penalty will be imposed on you not keeping a right balance. And out of that, they derive that since 5,000 rupees threshold limit is there and they are charging something on that, so they made this the basis of this.
Basically, they are getting rid of the threshold.
Yes.
There will be no threshold. Everybody has to pay a charge.
Yeah.
But that seems absolutely unfair to customers.
Absolutely. You see, it is absolutely not fair. In one hand, you encourage people to go in for banking, and on the other hand, you are trying to put a disincentive for opening a bank account and becoming digital in terms of your transactions.
Right.
You see, this is a kind of a contradiction to your policy.
Right.
So the government must come with a very uniform policy. The policy should be such that if you are encouraging people to get into the banking system, then you must ensure that it is not tax liable. You know, we must make the customers feel very happy that when I use the services of the bank, I don't have to pay any extra charge.
Right.
Apart from my day-to-day banking deposits which I need to do, like my salary or my income, whichever is coming, it goes into the bank account. Earlier people used to keep in cash at home. So now at least the money is coming into the bank. That itself is an opportunity. The banks must become more efficient and very, very profitable by bringing in efficiency in the banking system rather than levying charges. And government should not be imposing any taxation on banking service. It is not, customer friendly. I feel the council, the GST council must be represented well by the banks and even consumer organizations and even citizens groups should go before the and including the political parties. We want the political parties whose representatives are also there in the GST council, from governments of various states who are represented, they should vehemently object to this.
Right.
Because they must encourage efficiency, they must encourage competition, they must encourage a good banking system.
But according to the tax department, they are encouraging efficiency by demanding this money that they believe that the bank owes to them. So I know that you're a consumer expert, but what solution do you believe that the banks have at this point? Because that tax liability of 15,000 crore rupees is there. So if the banks do not pass it on to the consumers, what solution do they have?
No, the point is they either need to absorb it within their profit.
Within their profits.
So that their profitability, which they are giving as dividends to their shareholders, should reduce.
Do you think that's a possibility, Mr. Gupta?
This kind of transaction should be taken out of the GST purview. Basically, this banking, and in fact, in the past, we were not paying or
so
not
you believe it should
charging
not
for
be
that.
taxable altogether?
Yeah, in fact, this will have a multi effects on the other things, on the bank deposit, or even people look for some alternate channels or even they may take out much cash. And in fact, every transaction, ATM transaction, checkbook uses, or your fuel, this thing. So this will demoralize and definitely decrease in the users of the digital transaction.
Absolutely, and that's
you see the point which we need to take here is, lot of banks have been levying these service charges. See, because they have been levying these service charges, naturally the income tax authorities have the right to ask for a taxation on that service for which they are charging.
Right.
Now, if they have made money out of that service, the bank should be made liable to pay that tax rather than the customer. You see, my contention is the policy should be brought about in such a manner that they should stop these kind of charges on services and not give any kind of a opportunity to tax such services which are actually profitable, kind of transactions within the banking system for the banks. So the banks who have collected the money and they are now willing to pay that tax, that's fine. But they should not recover it from the consumers. It should come out of the. It should come out of their profit because they made a huge amount of profit.
And banks are following it. Tax rules whatsoever. Whatever the government framing the rules, those are imposed on the bank. Tax rules are not framed by the banks. Whenever there is any transaction which comes to the GST and which is applicable,
but in June also the government did intervene, which is why it didn't go. In June, when the tax department was pushing the banks, the government intervened.
Because
so does the government have the option of intervening
again?
Because
you see, at the end of the day,
both are the wings of the Ministry of Finance. One is the Department of Revenue and it is the
So I think
Department
one
of
point that both of you concur on is the fact that this should not be taxable in the first place, something which is a necessity these days.
And if you are charging a service charge, then of course the bank should be made liable to pay, not the customer. So the point is, you should not charge any service charge for such services, number one, which will enable you to make huge profits, which actually you should be passing that benefit to the customer.
And later be liable to pay.
And then not make the customer liable to pay the tax.
So and on that note, in the interest of time, I want to ask you my last question, which is both of you. What does this mean for a cashless India? India has been trying to move towards a cashless economy, but something like this could really push India back and start India from, go backpedaling into where people are more prone to making cash transactions once again, because nobody wants to pay for withdrawing money from the ATM. So what does this mean for the cashless India initiative?
No, that is what I am trying to tell you, that it doesn't, I don't buy these kind of policies because there is a dichotomy, there is a kind of a mismatch. In one hand, you are encouraging people that you deal less with cash, and on the other hand, you say, when you go to a ATM and try to draw money, then I will charge you some service charge. Now, this is not done,
It draws away the incentive.
Absolutely, because what we are all the time trying to tell is that, what we all the time trying to tell is that if you avoid cash transactions, it makes the economy much more robust and sound.
Absolutely.
You bring everything within the net of scrutiny in terms of your income and expenditures and taxation, and the citizens are very well responding to that. You see now.
Well, I have to give a few seconds to Mr. Gupta to just answer that one question very quickly.
In fact, more than 70% of the banking transactions has already shifted to the alternate channels like ATMs, like internet banking, and all that. And the digitalization is more into the practice, and more people are shifting to that. But at this point, if there is tax liability put on them, then definitely they may not try to do all these things, it
Yeah.
will affect the banking as well as the entire
Economy
growth
as
of
well.
economy.
Absolutely.
It will
People will
affect
stop.
Absolutely.
People will stop depositing their money in the bank.
Right,
And then
right.
it
Well, I have to wrap up the discussion in interest of time there, but a very interesting talk there over how this means bigger things for an economy which is very freshly trying to move towards a digital India, a cashless India, but going back where customers are charged for using the ATM or for issuing a check could really have India backpedaling on all the progress it has made in that particular sector. There is a bigger problem at hand here, and the hope is that banks do not go ahead and pass on that tax liability on to the customers. I would like to thank our guests for the evening, Mr. Bijon Mishra as well as Mr. Ravinder Gupta, for joining us. It's been a very interesting talk. I have to wrap up this discussion, but thank you for watching. On the other side, my colleague Avnish Hegde awaits you with all the latest from the world of sports. Thanks for joining in and have a great evening.